Hello, welcome to Midlands Today with Suzanne Verdi and Michael Colley.
Our top story.
Last night there was looting and violence in Birmingham. Tonight it has spread to West Bromwich. A van and a car are set alight as up to 200 youths run amok.
I'm ashamed to be a black guy, seeing a lot of young other black people causing this trouble and bringing our names down, and it just needs to stop.
Police admit they were outnumbered last night. They say tonight there'll be a change of tactics and more officers on the streets.
This isn't a game, this is serious criminality, and that the penalties are very severe.
After violence in Handsworth, calls for calm from community leaders. They say the rioting must stop.
There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of concern, and people want to know what's going to be done about it.
And it will go ahead. England's eagerly awaited third test against India at Edgbaston starts tomorrow.
Good evening, welcome to Tuesday's Midlands Today. This was not an angry crowd, this was a greedy crowd. That's how the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police described the rioters in Birmingham who attacked the city last night. Tonight the violence has spread to West Bromwich and Wolverhampton, with cars on fire and stores being broken into.
We'll have the latest from West Bromwich in just a few minutes, but first let's look back at how the violence started last night. It was around 6 o'clock when groups of youths began to gather in Birmingham city centre. An hour and a half later, gangs started looting and vandalising shops. By 11 o'clock, the violence had spread to Handsworth.
The clean-up began in earnest this morning, but many shopkeepers and businesses closed early today to try to protect their premises. Liz Copper reports.
In Birmingham's jewellery quarter, the shutters came down early this afternoon. They're fearful of what might be to come. In the city centre, teams have been sweeping away the shattered remains of last night's violence. Cash boxes raided, shop fronts ruined, and businesses ransacked. But it's not easy brushing away the memories of last night. This was the picture as looters, some with an almost casual air, stripped the shelves. Others just grabbed what they could. It was only much later that police eventually restored order and regained control. In Handsworth, cars and buildings, including a police station, were set alight. Fires burned through the night. For those caught up in the chaotic scenes, such as the manager of this arcade in New Street, it was terrifying. Lorraine Wells found herself trapped inside, frantically calling the police for help.
I phoned about 9:30 when I was in the stock room, and I said to the operator, I can't talk loud because they might find me and kill me. And nobody came. Nobody came.
And there was raw emotion too from workers taking in the damage with a sense of bewilderment and anger.
I'm ashamed to be a black guy, seeing a lot of young other black people causing this trouble and bringing our names down, and it just needs to stop. People need to understand, and the parents need to take control.
It's just madness, absolute madness. Just wanting destruction and chaos, isn't it? Just an excuse to steal and rob.
To come through town this morning, it just makes me feel sick, to be honest with you. Really sick. To the bottom of my heart, it makes me feel sick. Do you know what I mean? To see a young girl get beat up on the streets. Do you know what I mean? Maybe she shouldn't be here, but she still didn't have the right to be beat up.
I think it's actually mindless violence, isn't it? That's all I can put it down to.
The looters targeted banks and mobile phone shops in particular. Some, like this one, were emptied completely, while others were left entirely unscathed.
There was plenty of curiosity from shoppers, but this wasn't business as normal. Not when forensic experts were beginning their inquiries. Birmingham City Council's urging vigilance this evening.
We don't expect people, young people, children, to behave the way that they did. It wasn't normal, it was feral. And quite frankly, parents have got to start to take some responsibility for the actions of their children, and very young children at that.
Tonight, the region is bracing itself, hoping the night passes peacefully, but preparing for potential disturbances. Liz Copper, BBC Midlands Today, Birmingham.
Well, in the past couple of hours, up to 200 youths in hoodies have been seen on the streets of West Bromwich. Several shop windows have been smashed and vehicles set on fire. Well, our reporter Ben Sidwell is there for us now. So, Ben, what can you tell us?
Well, at the moment, there seems to be a slight lull in what's been going on. We're on the high street, and as you say, those two vehicles there just about 100 yards in front of us. One, a van, the other, a Land Rover, both completely burnt out. The fire brigade have been here, and they've put them out as well. So they are out. Police, probably numbering over 100, a number of riot vans here as well. Just keep sort of going from place to place as incidents seem to happen all over. They're reacting to what is going on here in West Brom at the moment. But as I said, just for the moment, there seems to be a lull in what's going on. Police seem slightly more relaxed.
Well, Ben, as you've been talking, we've seen pictures of what was happening there just a little while ago. How much damage do you think has been caused?
Well, obviously, the vehicle's burnt out. One of these awful scenes that we have been seeing over the last few days, they're down at the bottom. When we go down further down the high street into the sort of pedestrianised area, a number of shops have had windows smashed. Wilkinson's has had a window smashed. One of the betting shops has had the door broken into. There are police guarding those stores now. Whether people have managed to get in, we don't know. We don't think so, but damage to those shops as well. What else has happened around, we're not quite sure because, as I say, we're right in the sort of heart of the high street at the moment. But certainly a great amount of damage here, and still not as many youths around on some of the corners, but there certainly are, and police are keeping an eye on what's going on.
OK, Ben, thank you.
Well, that's the latest from West Bromwich. Let's speak now to Andy Newman, who's in the centre of Birmingham, where, of course, there were so many incidents last night. Andy, how are things really looking tonight?
We have had some patchy reports of trouble this evening, Michael, but mercifully nothing on the scale of last night yet. A group of around 60 youths gathered near Victoria Square earlier and attacked a police van. I gather they've now dispersed. Elsewhere, it's been a rather quieter evening in the city centre than usual, with many shops and businesses closing early, people going home early. Many have been boarded up as a precaution, including the flagship Harvey Nichols store in the mailbox. And in fact, the mailbox has been surrounded, I'm told, by 6 police vans to protect it. We've also had a police helicopter hovering overhead. It's a measure of the very much increased police presence here in Birmingham as a precaution tonight.
Andy Newman in Birmingham, thank you.
Well, more than 130 arrests have been made since last night's violence. Police have also released images of suspects they want to arrest. Chief Constable Chris Sims described many of those responsible for the disorder as astonishingly young. He also admitted they were outnumbered 2 to 1 by the youths. Here's Bob Hockenhull.
Images captured on streets of chaos. These are some of the suspects the police want to speak to. Their faces now posted on the West Midlands Police website.
This was not an angry crowd. This was a greedy crowd. What we were dealing with was dishonesty and disorder.
At a news conference today, Chief Constable Chris Sims said 400 frontline officers were involved in dealing with last night's disorder. That will increase to 500 tonight, with backup from the Staffordshire, West Mercia and Warwickshire forces. Some have accused the police of standing by as shops were looted, a charge I put to the Chief Constable.
Do you think, though, that your tactics were perhaps too softly and that you should have just gone into these shops that were being looted and immediately arrested those people?
No, I think we learned a lot as the evening went by. This isn't like previous disorder that we've experienced, so we've had to think about our tactics, move more quickly. But no, this isn't about being soft. 133 arrests, I think, prove that.
More arrests came today as police made raids on addresses in Acox Green and Spark Brook. Designer clothes and sportswear believed to have been stolen from some of the 30 shops looted last night was seized in the operation.
I think we're all alive to the fact that we need to respond quickly to the information, the intelligence that we've got.
Quick arrests of suspects is one of the tactics the West Midlands force wants to use as a deterrent. The Chief Constable says the response to last night's disorder can in no way be described as passive policing. But shopkeepers who've been forced to close all day because of the damage caused say the police tactics must be as robust as possible. Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg met some of those affected in Birmingham this afternoon.
Guys, I think you're a bit too late! Mr. Clegg,
He was booed as he reached New Street, but had this warning for anyone thinking of causing more trouble.
They will get arrested, they will get a criminal record, and it'll really hit them hard for some time to come.
And he warned parents they must ensure children stay off the streets at night. Bob Hocknall, BBC Midlands Today, Birmingham.
Well, MPs are being recalled to Westminster on Thursday. Joining us now, two local MPs, the Conservatives' James Morris and Labour's Shabana Mahmood. Shabana Mahmood, you're on Labour's Home Affairs team. Last night you said on the radio this was mindless criminality. If that's so, this is down to the police. What part can politicians really play in it at this stage?
Well, I mean, I think that it's not just down to the police. They have to work in partnership with politicians, local authorities, voluntary groups, and in particular parents. And we've all got to be singing from the same hymn sheet in saying that this is mindless criminality, and we all need to come together and work with the police to make sure that these individuals are prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Right,
OK, so working with the local community, James Morris, you're being called back to Parliament on Thursday.
Yep.
Isn't it with your constituents you should be, not discussing things in Westminster right
Well,
now?
I think it's absolutely essential that at a time when there are this appalling criminality going on in our country, that members of Parliament are seen to be supporting the police to make sure that they do their job in restoring order to our streets. That's the first priority. The police need to be given all the resources and tools necessary to get order back on the streets, to get as many of these criminals arrested and put in prison as quickly as possible.
And yet, of course, there are arguments that the government's trying to take money away from the police. This is not the time to do it, is it?
I think those questions today are irrelevant. These are groups of mindless thugs going around our country. We need to restore order. I spoke to Chief Constable Sims today, and he's confident he's got the resources to deal with this problem.
Right.
What he
So
needs to do, as
yeah.
he was saying on that programme, was to arrest as many of these criminals as possible and get them behind bars.
And Shabana Mahmood, what would you like to see done right now?
We need to make sure that the police have all the resources they need right now in order to deal with this threat. We need to make sure that every single parent knows where their children are and can keep them indoors tonight, to keep them off the streets and keep them out of trouble. And we need to make sure that in the coming days and weeks we support the police in terms of residents providing CCTV images that they have or other information to help bring these criminals to court and get prosecutions and convictions.
Shabana Mahmood and James Morris, thank you both very much indeed.
Well, this afternoon, community leaders in the Aston and Handsworth areas of Birmingham have called for calm and the looting to stop. Mary Rhodes is outside the centre where that meeting took place and she joins us now. So how many people turned up to the meeting, Mary?
Well, it seemed about 150 people were at the meeting. It's only just broken up, actually, and it started at 4 o'clock this afternoon. We'll hear from the organiser of that meeting in just a moment to find out if it actually achieved what they set out to. But the people of Handsworth have been trying to get back to some kind of normality today, and I spent the day with people in the community finding out how they're coping and what they want from the police in order to prevent a further night of violence. And just a warning that my report does contain some flash images from early on. On the surface, it looked like business as usual in the main shopping street in Handsworth this morning. Just hours earlier, it had been a very different picture. These shots were recorded by Sikh community TV station Sangat TV. They were being watched live by shopkeepers whose stores were being looted. Deepak Patel runs a jewellery store on Soho Road. They managed to escape any damage, but he's concerned about the impact of the riots on his community.
Traders are opening, trying to be as normal as possible, but we can only trade if customers want to come onto the road. So hopefully, you know, if we can nip it in the bud and curtail it, we can get back to normal as quickly as possible.
Deepak's also chair of the local Traders Association, and he invited us along to a meeting with the police.
This is a vibrant community that is standing up for itself at the minute, and actually we want that to continue. If we close everything down, the people who are causing the criminality at the moment will win.
But many at the meeting still wanted reassurance from the police ahead of any potential trouble tonight.
The general consensus is that people are concerned, and we need to have some reassurances as to what the police are going to do to safeguard all the properties and businesses of, you know, most of these are small business traders, and they can't afford to have this sort of vandalism on their property.
While some businesses are still picking up the pieces from last night, the general feeling along the streets here in Handsworth is it's business as usual, and that's just how the community wants it to be.
Everyone in this community, they feel really stressful, and many of them
I'm sure they didn't go to sleep.
Our livelihood is at stake. It's no good telling us that you close the shops early and go home. We are here to earning our livelihood.
If you got young people, you need to keep them indoors tonight. Because last night there were 13, 14, 15-year-old kids on the streets, and we have to ask the question: where were the parents? Why were kids out on the streets so late at night?
Derek Campbell is a community leader in Handsworth who advises the government on antisocial behaviour.
I think the community are really sitting on the edge, hoping that it won't continue, but nevertheless we need to have some positive statements or further positive statements from the police to make them feel that it's okay and that everything's under control.
But by early afternoon, banks were closing and the shutters were coming down as rumours of more trouble started to spread. Well, as the shutters were going up in Handsworth, community leaders were meeting with police here, and I'm joined by the organiser of that meeting, who's Carl George from United in Building Legacy. Carl, what did you want the meeting here to achieve?
There are a number of points, Mary, that we really wanted to achieve today. And one of them was to make sure that we got information to the community about exactly what's going on, and to make sure that we can feel safe as a community, as the citizens of Birmingham, and in particular the African and Caribbean community.
You were in there for a long time. The meeting went on for way over 2 hours. So did you achieve what you wanted?
We did achieve, but the issues were a lot more than just looking at the riots. What we wanted to ensure is that the media didn't portray the fact that these disturbances are from just the African and Caribbean community. It's the whole community that we found that are getting involved in these types of things. And the activities have got so many dire consequences for the community at large. So people, it's not like shoplifting. You probably could get 5 or 10 years by being involved in this type of activity. And we wanted to get across to the young people to stay off the streets and to ensure that parents make sure they know where their children are. So what we wanted to do is ensure that we could get some information.
And briefly, are you reassured that we won't have a repeat of last night's violence? Because we already know that the trouble again in West Bromwich tonight.
Yeah, from what the police told us, what we can expect is proportionate policing, a robust policing process to help to make sure that our residents feel safe. And what we've got to do is try and make sure that we keep accountable for our children. Can't predict what's going to happen, but that's what we see.
OK, Carl George, many thanks indeed. So there's certainly a degree of optimism amongst the community leaders here, but it remains to be seen whether that's translated out onto the streets tonight. Back to you.
Thanks, Mary. And BBC WM will have minute-by-minute information and news in special programmes throughout the evening. And there's further information on the BBC Birmingham website too.
Now, a new influence that's being blamed by some for helping the rioters is social media methods of communication like Twitter, Facebook and BlackBerry messaging. And they're instant methods of communicating, and they're allowing organised groups to coordinate attacks and then to escape from police.
But this new technology has also provided rapidly updated information about what's been going on, and it's even helping with the clear-up. Our science correspondent David Gregory has been scanning the web. David, over to you.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Well, of course, as soon as trouble began, people were recording footage on their mobile phones and uploading it to the internet. Here's someone driving through town. They're filming hooded youths running through the street, and obviously that carried on into dark. This is near that Armani store that was looted. And gay magazine Midlands Zone has video of hooded and masked looters apparently attacking passers-by in Birmingham's gay quarter. Now, it seems this man was later bundled away in a passing car. Now, one man did set up a website, a sort of clearinghouse of information, to explain what was going on last night. And soon, this website had thousands of followers.
I was checking all these different social networks and getting messages on my phone, and it didn't seem that there was one place where everybody could go to get the info. And I thought, if I could save everybody else the hassle of trying to find out information, conflicting information in some cases from all these different sources, then that would be a good thing to do. So that's what I did, and I initially started posting the pictures that were on Twitter and getting information from a couple of people I had in town. And then quickly, people started following the blog and they started submitting their own posts about what was going on.
Now, this picture of an overturned car is real. If you can see it, that's Soho Road. But of course, it wasn't possible to verify all the information. So if you scroll down the web page, you eventually come across a picture of the bullring bull minus its head, and it's clear this was actually a fake photo. But sorting fact from fiction is hard in a fast-moving situation. So on Twitter, there were plenty of rumours, for example, that Birmingham's Children's Hospital was being attacked. Now, that wasn't true. But Twitter also provided a route for official sources like the police to set the record records straight. In the end, social media is just a tool. You can use it to arrange trouble, but you can just as easily use it to volunteer to help with the clean-up too. And that's what 100 people, including these three, did this morning at the Bullring.
Good on them. Thanks very much, David.
Well, today's other news in brief now. An inquest into the death of a Stoke-on-Trent soldier from the 4th Regiment Royal Artillery has found that he was killed unlawfully whilst on military service in Afghanistan last May. Gunner Zach Cusack was shot by insurgents. He was 20. The court heard how he'd chosen not to wear side plates as part of his body armour, which the coroner said could possibly have saved his life.
The University of Birmingham's unveiled plans for a 50-metre swimming pool as part of a £175 million development. The university says the proposals, which would include a new library, would help them to gain a reputation as one of the best learning establishments in the world. It will be the first time Birmingham's had an Olympic-length pool.
10 towns and cities across the Midlands are in the running to launch local TV services. The announcement's been made by Culture Secretary Jeremy Hunt. 65 locations have been chosen across the country. The long list will be whittled down to 20 by the end of the year.
Now, the captains of both England and India's cricket teams say that despite last night's riots, they're preparing as normal for tomorrow's Test match at Edgbaston.
And as Dan Pallett reports, both teams have shown solidarity before.
It's the marketing man's dream. The stars are in town, the new stand's ready, and the sun's shining.
Yes, the superstars of Indian cricket are here. Sachin Tendulkar's looking for his 100th hundred for his country, but the trouble in the city centre last night could overshadow the entire game.
Last night's looting in the city centre has put a game of cricket into perspective. But as today's sniffer dogs showed, security is always high for a test match. Officials at Warwickshire said they were too busy to give us an interview, but India's captain says they're continuing as normal.
I think the best thing to do is, as cricketer, as part of the side, to prepare well for the game. Whatever happens, that's secondary. So for us, it's important to be 100% ready for the game.
And at the moment, you're happy enough to play this game?
Well, of course.
And cricket has dealt with worse. 3 years ago, England were in India when terrorists attacked Mumbai, but they returned later to complete their tour.
I don't know if it puts any context into it. I mean, they're two very differing situations. But, as I said before, it's just sad to watch your television and see, such kind of looting going on in your own country.
It's easy to forget that if England win this test, they replace India as the #1 team in the world. But as the crowds outside the Nets practice show, fans are still keen to watch the cricket. And with almost 90,000 tickets sold, Edgbaston is still hoping for a memorable match. Dan Pallett, BBC Midlands Today, Birmingham.
And there are two pieces of football transfer news to bring you, with West Bromwich Albion signing Reading striker Jane Long. Jane Long?
No, it's not
Shane
Jane.
Long.
That would be interesting.
Shane Long. Thought to be a record fee for the club, and Stoke City have signed the former England, Birmingham and West Ham defender Matthew Upson on a 2-year deal.
Definitely Shane Long. Let's find out what the weather's up to. Here's Shafali.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Well, we're rather fortunate in the sense that the latest computer runs want to hold this deluge of rain back a little longer. And I say deluge, but really it's just going to be a dollop for Wales. By the time it reaches most of us, it should be considerably lighter. So this is the headline for tomorrow. It's going to be mostly dry, and it's also going to be warm and humid, but windier. But the changes start to occur tonight, just subtle changes initially. We're looking at clear skies to begin with, but then it's going to cloud over from the north and west, and that will just bring in a little bit of light rain to parts of Staffordshire, Shropshire towards the end of the night. But it is going to be reasonably warm, temperatures dropping down to a minimum of 12 Celsius, and that's because the winds are switching around to southwesterlies gradually, and that will later tomorrow start to draw in more humid air. So to start with tomorrow, fairly dull for most parts, but you can see that slither of rain really restricted to the north of the region through much of the day. Some of it could turn heavy from time to time, but further south, we'll start to see some sunshine breaking through. And just keeping an eye on the southern boundary of that rain, because it may just edge into Birmingham, but hopefully it'll stay away for the cricket. Top temperatures tomorrow, 23 Celsius, so it's a warm day, again, as I said, because of those southwesterlies, but we could see gusts of around 40 miles per hour, and it won't be until the afternoon that you start to notice it turning more humid. As for tomorrow night, that band of rain starts to then head southwards, and if this computer moves on, there we go, we'll see some wet areas during the evening tomorrow and then into Thursday.
Thank you, Shafali.
Tonight's main headlines. Tonight, thousands of extra police drafted onto the streets of London after last night saw the worst violence for a generation as the flames destroyed homes and businesses.
Last night there was looting and violence in Birmingham. Tonight it spread to West Bromwich. A van and a car are set alight as up to 200 youths run amok.
So let's catch up now with the very latest before we finish the programme. Mary Rhodes is in Aston in Birmingham and Andy Newman is in Birmingham city centre. Mary, where you are, residents have been appealing for calm, haven't they?
Yes, they have indeed, Michael. We had a meeting here which broke up about half an hour ago of around about 150 community leaders with the police, and they seemed largely satisfied that they were able to have an open discussion with the police. And the main message that came away from that, from the community leaders to the police, was that they wanted them to be robust but not heavy-handed. Having spent the day in Handsworth, business leaders there, they're both nervous and quite angry about the level of violence that broke out there tonight, and they are, for the main part, preparing for more trouble again this evening.
Mary Rhodes, thank you.
Thanks, Mary. You could hear the sirens there behind you, Mary. And Andy Newman in Birmingham city centre now. So shops were looted and vandalised last night. What's happening in the city now, do you think?
Well, thankfully, Suzanne, no really serious problems to report tonight, but we are still getting reports of smaller flare-ups. One caller to the BBC said that he was trapped in his car in Birmingham city centre, surrounded by riot police, as they tried to protect him from a gang of youths. Also, a lot of precautionary measures in place. We've heard that National Express buses are cutting short their services, terminating just outside the inner ring road. That's both in Birmingham and in Wolverhampton, on the advice of the police as a result of their ongoing operation. Earlier we heard about a lot of riot police piling into New Street Station in Birmingham, but again there was no actual trouble there. I think everybody here is very twitchy tonight, and it's still a fluid situation.
Thanks very much indeed, Andy.
Mary as well, thank you. And that is all from Midlands Today for now. On the day, the Chief Constable of the West Midlands described last night as a terrible night for the country and a very bad night for Birmingham.
Well, we'll be back with the latest updates during the 10 o'clock news. That's right here on BBC1. And of course, BBC local radio stations will have updates throughout the evening, that's as well as the news channel, of course.
For now, from Midlands Today, do have a very good evening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.